Hey guys, you are watching your anime world. How are you all? Please support to subscribe this channel for watching new interesting stories. So in this video, we will see fourth part what if Deku was given an Ultimatrix. Here is short summary. With the creation of a new Ultimatrix, an ailing Ben Tennyson agrees to send the machine into another dimension. Enter Izuku Midoriya, a young, powerless boy within a super-powered society with dreams of being a hero. Now, armed with the Ultimatrix, will he be able to carve out his own heroic legacy, or fall to the villains that want the device for themselves? But before we start, if you want more stuff like this, then be sure to subscribe and like this video. And if possible share this video with your friends. Now let's start the story. Midoriya residence, new home. Himiko noticed something about her new little sister as they went about unpacking their things into the new home. Something that brought a smile to her face as the little girl ran up and down the halls of the house, and climbed the stairs with the speed of a speedster. She noticed that, when Eri felt comfortable, she was an absolute terror. As exhibited by Hitoshi as he tried to keep up with the little bundle of energy. "Come on, half pint, don't run through the house like that." The frazzled teen shouted as he chased after her, "You're gonna trip and, oof." Of course, the very thing that he was trying to warn the little girl about was exactly what happened to him as he stumbled and tripped over his own feet and landed smack on his chin while the little girl ran circles around him. Himiko giggled from where she was on the upper level at the top of the stairs. "You okay down there, Mento?" she asked jokingly as Eri jumped onto his back as he was trying to get up. Her lip twitched while the poor boy groaned. "Eri, sweetie, Hitoshi isn't a horse." She giggled. Hitoshi stood up and grabbed the little girl by her ankles, dangling her upside down while she squealed happily. "Now I've gotcha." He grinned wickedly and started tickling her. "Not so tough now, are you?" Katsuki came around the corner leading into the kitchen with a scowl on his face. "You gonna help put this she-er stuff away, or keep playing with the kid all day?" he demanded as his arms were full with boxes. Hitoshi just shrugged. "Someone's gotta keep her entertained," he reminded the explosive teen. "Himiko's busy organizing everything, and Eri's scared of you, so it's gotta be me," he said with a wide grin. "I'm not that scary," Katsuki exploded, startling a yelp out of Eri. From above, Himiko threw one of her slippers at the ashen blonde. "Ow. The hell was that for?" he roared up at her. Himiko humphed and put her hands on her hips. "Quit yelling at the top of your lungs all the time," she said curtly. "It's not like we're deaf. At least not yet," she pointed to the blonde. "Now stop scaring my little sister and help your mom in the kitchen." "Don't you tell me what to do." Katsuki snapped right back at her before a hand reached out and grabbed him by the back of his shirt. "Gag. Get your ass back in here and help with these dishes." Mitsuki snapped at her son as she hauled him back out of sight. Himiko giggled and shook her head in exasperation before looking down at Hitoshi. "Need a break?" she asked while the boy was still holding Eri, right side up now, the little girl looking tired all of the sudden. She frowned at him as Eri yawned. "You didn't use your quirk on her to make her sleepy, did you?" "Hey." The boy looked offended. "I'm tired, not desperate," he told her with a huff of anger. "She's just burned out from all that running around." He looked behind the blonde. "Has Kanoko got her room set up yet?" he asked. Not seeing his girlfriend, the kid could probably use a nap. She shrugged. "I'll go check on her," she said and strode down the hall toward the little girl's room. "She should really be done by now, shouldn't she?" she muttered mostly to herself. The unpacking was mostly done. The only things that were left were the few things going with them to UA in the next month or so. They were all planning to move into the dorms, but also planned on weekend visits to spend time with Inko and Eri. "Hey, Komori," Himiko called out as she ducked into the room. "You done in here?" She trailed off at what she saw before smacking herself in the face. "You gotta be kidding me." Inko and Mitsuki had gone a little overboard when picking things out for Eri's room. Not that she could blame them. The little girl deserved some nice things after all she had been through, but Himiko was nearly blinded by the princess pink room. From the shaggy rug at the edge of her bed, to the wardrobe where a few dozen articles of clothes now rested inside thanks to Mitsuki. Her bed frame was painted pink, and the covers on her bed were rosy pink with My Little Pony characters all over it. That she could put up with. What Himiko could not put up with was the fact that one Kanoko Komori was curled up on the bed fast asleep holding a Toad from Mario plush toy. So she stomped over to the girl, reared her hand back and gave her a resounding slap on her ass. Yeek. It worked. The girl woke up immediately and rolled out of the bed, hitting the floor with a thump. Ow. She rubbed both her head and her backside where Himiko had slapped her as she glared up at the blonde. What was that for? Himiko shrugged. Sleeping on the job. She giggled as a small puff of spores rose out of the girl's hair. She reached down to help her up. Come on, Hitoshi's bringing Eri up for her nap, and he can't do that with you sleeping here. Kanoko still looked at her sourly. You could have just shook me, she grumbled as the pair left the room. I'm a light sleeper. Himiko grinned at her over her shoulder. Now where's the fun in that? She asked while the brunette rolled her eyes at her. Have Izuku and Mei gotten back yet? She asked as they met Hitoshi on the stairs with Eri dozing off on his shoulder. I just got a call from Ms. Midoriya, the boy said as he passed them. They're on their way back right now. Kanoko smiled. I hope everything went all right with Mei's mom, she said happily. She seemed really nervous this morning. You wouldn't be, Himiko asked as she shivered at the very thought of going to a place like Tartarus. It was the place she had always feared ending up if her parents ever decided to make good on any of their threats. I'm sure everything's fine, the blonde assured her. Remember who she's got with her. Before the girl could comment, a sudden loud knock came to the door. Is that them? She wondered as Himiko went to answer it. It's our house, Himiko replied, suddenly feeling cautious. Why would they knock? She said as she looked through the peephole, a smile suddenly gracing her lips. She opened the door to reveal a beaming pink-skinned girl. What's up, Midori fam? Mina Ishido grinned happily as she held up several boxes of pizza. Hope you guys are hungry. Starving, Himiko giggled as she let the girl in, followed closely by who she assumed were her parents. The woman that resembled Mina the most held out a confections box. I brought a cake as a welcome gift, she told the girl as she accepted the box. Great, thanks so much. Himiko beamed, feeling slightly overwhelmed by how nice the Ishidos were. Mina entered the kitchen where Mitsuki and Katsuki were putting away dishes in the cabinets. Hey, Mrs. Bakugo. The girl grinned as the woman smiled at her in greeting. Where's Ms. Midoriya? She and Izuku went with Mei to see her mother, the woman supplied, frowning slightly. They should be on their way back, but I'm not sure how alright poor Mei's gonna be. Katsuki scoffed. You shouldn't worry too much, the ashen blonde said while his mother aimed a swipe at his head. I mean she's tougher than she looks, ya old hag. He snapped before she smacked him again. And I told you not to call me that. Mitsuki snapped right back while Mina set the stack of pizza boxes on the table. Her mother came into the kitchen with Himiko just as the mother and son duo started arguing. Is there anything I can do to help? She trailed off as she laid eyes on Mitsuki pulling her son's ear harshly while Katsuki had a hold of her cheek. Nope. Mitsuki's demeanor did a complete 180 as she dropped her son to the floor and gained a friendly look on her face. We've just about finished everything up here, she said while holding out her hand. I'm Mitsuki Bakugo, by the way. Sakura Ishido, Mina's mother said nervously as her husband joined them. This is my husband, Genbu. Genbu nodded his head, pleased to meet you. As the parents greeted each other, Mina sidled up to Himiko. So is Mei really doing okay after, you know? She asked, feeling bad for the girl's situation. She really couldn't picture something happening to her parents, least of all not having them around. Himiko gave a short shrug of her shoulders. I really don't know, the girl said. She wears a mask better than I do, and I have a shapeshifting quirk. She set the cake box on the table next to the pizzas before lifting the lid of one and grabbing a slice for herself. Bomber Boy's right, though, she said before chomping down on her meal. She's tougher than people think she is. Mina smiled at that as she took a piece for herself. So, what about Izuku? Himiko gained a devilish look. First name basis already, huh? She asked as Mina blushed a pretty purple. Woo well, yeah, Mina muttered. I mean, we kissed and all, so. Himiko nearly choked on her mouthful as she let out a quiet squeal of excitement. "Oh, this is great," she said as she hugged the pink girl. "You're gonna be so good for him." Mina giggled nervously. Yeah, sure," the girl muttered. "He hasn't really asked me out yet, but..." The blonde girl pulled back with a grimace. "Yeah." Himiko then rolled her eyes. "I'm gonna kill that clueless." She then went on a little rant about Izuku's lack of brains when it came to girls in general while Mina was only half listening. Hitoshi came back down the stairs, drawn by the smell of the food they'd brought. "Hey, Ashido," he said in greeting while Himiko continued to rant. Mina waved at him while the boy grabbed a piece of pizza. "Where's Kanoko?" he asked, not seeing the girl. "Here I am." The girl came around the corner with a roll of paper towels. "I thought we might need these." "Great." Mina jumped forward, somewhat eager to get away from the ranting blonde and all the ways she was going to mangle her brother. Something that Katsuki was finding utterly hilarious as he listened to her. "Oh yeah, I wanted to tell you guys that I managed to get in touch with Uraraka," she said, reminding all of them of their other friend from the UA infirmary. "She said she was down for the party that Izuku wants to throw for us," she said, "and her parents are gonna be able to come, too." Kanoko looked at Hitoshi as she handed him a towel. "What about your parents, Hitoshi?" She saw the boy stiffen mid-chew. "Or do you think they won't come?" Hitoshi swallowed loudly. It's not that my mom wouldn't come," the boy said nervously. "I just don't think she'd wanna see me." He gave off a sad sigh. "What about your folks, Kanoko?" The girl gave a sigh of her own. "No. My mom has a business trip coming up that's taking her across the country," she shrugged, "and my dad's leaving for America soon." She frowned, remembering the conversation she had had with her parents not so long ago about a supposed boyfriend. They had not approved, but that didn't mean they had to know about him. She liked Shinso too much just to give up their budding relationship just because her parents didn't think she was responsible enough to juggle schoolwork and romance. "Well, we'll be there," Mina proclaimed happily. "I can't wait to party with everyone." She threw her arms around Himiko while the girl giggled at her antics, her anger at Izuku momentarily forgotten. Then the front door came open, and in walked the rest of the Midoriya family, Mei and Toshinori, all of them looking somber. It was obvious to anyone, even those that didn't know her, that Inko had been crying. Not the usual waterspout tears that Mitsuki and Toshinori were used to, either. Her eyes were red and puffy, and the look she had on her face was one of anger. Whatever had happened with Mei's mother had not gone over well, it seemed. Inko's face softened when she saw Mina and her parents. "Oh, Ashido, dear," she smiled warmly at the girl, while Mina's dark eyes grew worried. "It's so nice to see you again," the woman said in her kindest tone before turning her attention to her parents, "and these lovely people must be your parents." Mitsuki, however, was having none of the act and swiped a hand through the air. "Inko, enough with the nice act," the woman said firmly. "Tell us what happened." "Yeah," Mina agreed, rushing forward to hug the woman. "Did Mei's mom not like or something?" she asked as she looked at the other Rosette, who was tucking her hands behind her back. "Mei." Toshinori reached out and put a hand on the girl's shoulder. "It's just the opposite, Miss Ashido," the man said kindly. "Kana loved Mei just as much as she did the first time she held her," he said, directing these words more toward the young mechanic. "It was the terms of her release that has us all a little somber, my dear." "They will, won't they?" Hitoshi asked, his question aimed toward Izuku while the boy nodded slowly. "Okay, then why do you guys look like you just came from a funeral?" Inko made a strangled sound in her throat, making them all realize something was very wrong. Toshinori sighed. "I think we'd all better sit down for this," the man muttered just loud enough to be heard. "This is going to be quite the tale." As Toshinori began to explain all that had transpired inside the walls of Tartarus, Mei decided to move up to her room. She knew the whole story already. When entering her room, the decorations sparse space for her toolboxes that were still packed away for transport to UA when the time came. She went over to her bed and sat on the edge, her head falling into her hands. "It's too much," she thought to herself as the day began to weigh down onto her shoulders. How could they ask him to do something like that? Her eyes stung with unshed tears. How could he agree so easily? A sob escaped her as a knock came sounded from outside. Her door creaked open. Hey, Mina said quietly as she entered the room. So. I heard. May looked at her in shame as the tears spilled over. Mina was at her side in a flash of pink. I'm sorry. May bawled into her shoulder. I'm so sorry. Mina wrapped her up in her arms. It's not your fault. She hushed her. None of it is. May shook her head. But he's doing this for me, she cried. How is this not my fault? She looked at her, and he made it clear, he can't beat that monster. Mina smiled at her. You really believe that? The girl asked, smiling at her warmly. I haven't known Izuku for very long, but if there's anyone other than All Might that can fight that guy, then I bet it'd be him. But he shouldn't have to. May pressed. I'm not worth it. He has so much going for him, and he's just going to throw it all away. Mina gave a small, humorless laugh. He wouldn't do anything less. She gave the girl's shoulders a gentle squeeze, especially for someone he loves. May stiffened. It's not. Don't try to deny it. Mina told her. I'm a beeper for romance wherever I see it. She reached up and flicked the girl in the forehead, making her yelp, and it's obvious there's something between you two. May sat back rubbing her head, a look of guilt on her face. She muttered, he loves you, too, you know. She looked down at her lap. More than me, anyway. I wouldn't be so sure, Mina said as she settled next to her. It was bad enough that he had to save me from Gigantomachia in the first place, but he plans to fight him for you now. May shook her head. Don't, the girl said, I'm not. I was ready for it, Mina told her, leaning her head back to look at the ceiling. I mean, my quirk gives me a pretty advanced mutation, so. May was up and on her feet so fast that Mina had no time to react as the girl slapped her clean across the face hard enough to knock her back on the bed. Mina sat up and saw a look of fury on the mechanic's face. If you think he cares about what people look like because of their quirks, then you're dead wrong. May snapped. Izuku, above all else, loves quirks. And if you think you're ugly because of your quirk, then I can promise you that Izuku Midoriya thinks you're the most beautiful girl in the world. Ow! Mina groaned as she rubbed her cheek. Did you have to hit me? May huffed. Yeah, because you were trying to throw away a guy that's way too good for both of us. The pink-haired girl beeped as she sank to the floor. Wanna know the worst part? May asked with a look in Mina's direction. Mina gave a small shrug and a half-hearted laugh. Izuku, that night he took you home, admitted that he loved us both. Mina's eyes widened in surprise, and he doesn't think he deserves either one of us. Why? Mina started, but began to giggle a moment later. Wow, I think we both found the perfect guy. May arched her brow at her. Mina, I like girls. Really? She asked, blinking rapidly. Then why? How the hell should I know? May groaned. I didn't even think about liking someone until I met him, and I was sure I liked girls even then. Mina's giggling returned and evolved into full-blown laughter. He sure has a talent for bringing people together, doesn't he? She laughed as May joined in with lighter laughter. Too bad there aren't two of him, then we could share. May looked at her, thinking for a moment, finding the idea of the two of them in a relationship not unpleasant. The idea of them sharing that relationship with Izuku wasn't an unpleasant idea either. It's not a bad idea. Mina's laughter stopped at once. Mina's face was turning a dark purple in color. You're not serious, are you? Mina yelped the last part out of sheer shock as the girl remained serious. May shrugged. It's not exactly against the rules, the girl said as Mina squawked. I mean, when quirks started popping up all over the place, a lot of rising heroes were encouraged to take more than one wife. Wife? Mina blurted out. May, I don't even know if I. You love him. May threw her own words right back at her. Don't try to deny it. Mina huffed. I admit that I am in the phase of heavily crushing on him. She pointed at the girl. Don't forget that I haven't known him as long as you have, so I can't bring myself to hope things work out that way. But you can believe that he'll survive fighting Gigantomachia, May pointed out with a shit-eating grin, a monster rumored to have more than one quirk, one of which allows him to grow close to 100 feet tall, and is responsible for killing several heroes. Mina bit her lip. I know he's strong, with a quirk like his. May rose from the floor and went over to the bed to sit down with her. Look. I don't know how this is going to work, May said, her head hanging low, but I really think that it can. She looked up at Mina with a small smile. I mean, if Izuku can beat Gigantomachia, then I think anything's possible. To be continued. I hope you enjoyed this story. Also remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.